the first shoe to drop was Tristan Thompson, what we thought was being traded to Atlanta rather, and then he ended up being shipped to Sacramento.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from.
I know, poor guy. He was like,
Atlanta, yes.
I can have some fun in Atlanta.
Wait, Sacramento. Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Hell.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that happened. So look, you knew this was happening. This was a necessary thing. He was going, bringing in, and again, the kind of interesting part of this is Kris Dunn, who everyone will remember is a guy, and myself included, was a guy a lot of people wanted Celtics to draft in place of Jaylen Brown. Part of the reason being is Kris Dunn seemed to be the guy most teams wanted to trade up for at that time to the 3 spot to acquire. And so when the Celtics took Brown, it was like, that's it. You're going to stick with Brown, and everybody was, apoplectic and really, like you saw the booing, and people were tweeting that out tonight, which is great. So Dunn and Bruno Fernando coming. The clever part here, and again, is they were able to slide. Was this the TPE here? Slide Dunn into the expiring Cantor TPE, and then create a new TPE, which is clever for whatever.
That's their magic trick.
Every team does it, but whenever you can, these are little cap manipulations that allow you to make moves. So that was move number 1. Bobby was fine with it. Okay, great, we've got that, and he went about his business. And then Bobby went away, and I was like, "Hey, we got to do a show." And he's like, "Sure, I'll talk about Tristan." And then he was like, "Wait a second, they got Josh Richardson from Dallas." Ugh. And that's where things got interesting.
So you mentioned the first TP that they got done with there. This is obviously the remaining Hayward TP, and we had a bunch of different ideas, some high hopes. I like Thomas Satoransky, but when you looked at that list, 2 things stood out at the top of it. Richardson is the most expensive out of all those guys that could have possibly come in on this TPE, and probably was among my least favorite in terms of players out there. This is going to be his 3rd team in a row that looked at him as a guy who could shore up guard depth on a fairly thin guard position on Philly, Dallas, and now Boston. And the common thread among those spots is he's kind of just stuck between being a perimeter wing guy who can't really shoot all that well and a point guard who can't create all that well. Now, solid defender, right, Sherrod? Like, that's his thing.
That's his thing.
And there's nothing to like about his offense, really.
Well, see, here's the thing. I don't have to like his offense because I've got 2 all-stars who can go and get buckets. I've got a stretch big now in Al Horford. I got Time Lord, who's a great rim runner. And all I need him to do is just run my offense, make an occasional shot every now and then. But his primary responsibility is to defend at a relatively high level and make sure that when you are asked to initiate the offense, you do that. I love this pick because, frankly, what are you losing? What are you giving up to get him? Nothing. What are you gaining by his addition? You're gaining another defender. And me and my son Isaiah, we were just talking about this a little while ago. You look at the pieces that they've added. This may very well be the best team defense that we've seen, these for individual defenders that we've seen assembled in the Brad Stevens era. Now, will they be a great team defense? That remains to be seen. But
get out of here.
Wow. How'd this happen?
Wait a minute. Obviously, he saw the bat signal, realized that he was not part of the festivities, and so now he wants to be.
Wait a second, Jimmy.
John, you know what happened? He swiped right, and there was nothing there.
So on the Garden Report, we don't do mandatory COVID testing, but I do maybe need to check on your BAC right now.
No.
Is this a Lakers situation?
If Celtics Lakers is in, I'm probably like 6. So I'm not anywhere near there. But I couldn't let the boys talk shop without at least jumping in for a few minutes.
Jumping in for a second. Well, so here we are. All right. Sherrod was in the middle.
Fire away. We just gave our takes.
I saw the boot.
Sherrod.
I like the addition of I was just saying I like the addition of Richardson because it costs you nothing. He gives you something of value. And I think when you look at the pieces around him with the Celtics, which I think right now they've got probably as good a group of individual defenders as they've had under Brad Stevens. Now, will they gel together as a team and play good team defense? That remains to be seen. But I like the fact that the guys that are coming into the fold now are guys who get after defensively, so that when teams are trying to run pick and roll, and you're playing the Brooklyn Nets, and all of a sudden, Kyrie Irving goes from being guarded by Jaylen Brown to now being guarded by Josh Richardson to now being guarded by Jason Tatum. Woo! He does not win that easily. He has to work no matter what happens. And that's, to me, I like what Brad is doing. This, and I'll be writing about this for Boston Sports Journal tomorrow. But I really like the way Brad has kind of hit the ground running in his GM spot, making the most out of having the least, which when you think about Brad as a coach, that's kind of when he's at his best.
This was creative. I'll give him that. Being able to get a borderline starter for essentially free, which I think a lot of people are waving the flag about here, is good, but there's a lot more considerations beyond that. Right. Your cap's in a tighter position now. You save some money with the Thompson move. You put some money on here.
What does it mean for Fournier? Is this a Fournier departure? We'll get into that a little bit because, again, you guys were asking me before we went live, what's my take? I don't know.
And you have no roster spots now.
I don't know yet. You're filled with roster spots. There have to be more moves, but also you have no idea what this means for Fournier here. Does this seal his fate? Is this a clear money save? Because right now, every single move thus far from Kemba all the way through to this has clearly been with the idea that I'm going to have as much money as possible at the end of next season free. And right now, that's where you are with all of these things. Everything is a 1 year. It's a 1 year. It's a 1 year. So Brad's doing all of this. And he's squeezing it all into this league year, so he has maximum flexibility going into next year with his draft picks and with the cap space at the end of the year. So you've got right now every indication that they're going to do something. Yeah, every indication that they're saving up here for something, which would mean to me Fournier doesn't fit here at all. However, are you trying to figure out a situation here with a sign and trade? Is Lonzo on the board? Was any of that real? I really don't know. We're still trying to figure out, was the Beal stuff real? Is Bradley really? Is he staying there? Is Washington trying to build around him? So it's really hard to get a judgment here. There's a lot of balls in the air. So we'll talk about all of it during this course. But let's let Jimmy have his say. What do you think of the moves?
Okay. A few thoughts. One, I think it's stupid for us to act like this is the finished product. I don't know. There's too many balls up in the air. I missed it. Did we say our goodbyes to Tristan Thompson officially? Did we even get to that yet? Because
we teased the fact that his eyes lit up when he's like, Atlanta, I can do Atlanta, and then boom, Sacramento.
What?
Yeah, but you know what?
Sacramento.
You know what though? He's probably already in California. I mean, this guy spent more time in California than he did in Boston anyway.
It's not too far from LA,
wants to be in Sacramento. No one wants to be in Sacramento.
No one wants to be in Sacramento. You're right. No one wants to be in Sacramento, but he's just a quick to where he wants to be.
Yeah, it's close.
Long, see you later. Hand up. I was completely wrong on that signing. That was a disaster from the very start. And we said it all year on the show. This guy is a shell. Without LeBron, this guy could be any one of us. I mean, really. I mean,
he did have that game 3. That game 3 was electric, but that's all you got.
So that's
it could be any one of us. I like that.
That's my first take. See you later. Thanks for coming. See you never again.
Yeah.
As far as Richardson's concerned, good solid role player, defensive guy. I think you guys talked about it. Can switch a lot. I think he can even play point. So it's one of those interchangeable pieces, which I guess you can't be upset with, especially with the fact that they technically got him for nothing. Now, I don't know if you let Bob, you can answer this. If they had just let it expire, does that improve their chances on player X that we don't know about? Or does acquiring him sort of just give them another, depth roster piece that they just wouldn't have had if they didn't use it?
It's about the same, right? Him and Thompson are both expiring. Both about the same amount of money here. I guess there's a little bit more matching power here, but I get the sense that Richardson is probably part of this team and their plans. I think this is, if you're going to use that TPE, that's a guy you have plans to invest in for at least a year here. And you just had to keep most of these moves, whether it's Dunn, whether it's Bruno Fernando, whether it's Richardson here, they all keep that money free to next summer. So it's finding pieces they can stay here now and keep that flexibility open for next offseason.
Right. The other thing too, Bobby, is that the pieces that they're starting to gather, when you start looking at where the Celtics will stack up in the East, they're not going to be head and shoulders above anyone in the East, but they are going to be competitive. And I think right now they're trying to figure out what is going to be their identity. And when you start looking at the pieces that are starting to come into place, and as Jimmy pointed out earlier, things by no means are settled, but there is going to be a clear emphasis on being a better team defensively. There is absolutely no doubt about that when you look at adding a guy like Richardson, when you look at just bringing back an Al Horford. That's going to be the identity that this team is going to try to establish. And that gives them a chance against the Brooklyn, against the Milwaukee, against some of the top teams in the East. And that's all you want. And then you have the ability to go out and significantly upgrade your roster a year from now because you'll have more flexibility. Again, Brad Stevens has hit the ground running big time in a good way.
So that's the one thing I'll say real quick, and then Jimmy jump in. I like these are moves that are confident moves. They're like deft moves. Like, I'm doing stuff. There's a plan. There's stuff at play, which is good, because the thing I would be most worried about is, oh shit, I got to do something. I'm the GM now, some sort of paralysis, which we've seen Danny suffer from too often, where you mull deals a little bit too long and you're like, nah. And that's the worst thing that can happen, is allow things to happen around you without really taking charge. So, right or wrong, you don't know, but that's the job, and you want to see somebody embrace that challenge. And so from the get-go with Kemba or whatever, that's what happened, and that's what he did, and done. So that's a good thing. You like to see that, again, this, as Jimmy said, this seems like it's the beginning of many moves to come, and that they have a plan, and that they're going to aggressively pursue that plan, and that they might even be able to execute it. And they don't have a lot. They really do have to be creative to improve their team now and in the future. So I like that. I like that aspect. What I'll say in Richardson's defense is, I just think we're too quick to label a guy as one thing or another. Is he an outstanding shooter? No. Is he a horrible shooter? Also no. This is a guy who's a career 35% three-point shooter. This is Bobby, you tried to shove Semi's 36% three-point shooting down my throat for a year, So let's at least call it, this is a guy who threatens the ability to be able to hit a shot. He's not a spacer or a shooter, but you're not leaving him dead wide open in the corner if the ball swings to him.
And he's a double-digit scorer every year.
He's a double-digit scorer.
Rookie season.
His numbers are pretty much identical. Richardson.
Yeah, he's a double-digit scorer every year.
He's a bad three-point shooter.
He's a mediocre. He's a 35% career three-point shooter with a couple of years at 38. It's not ridiculously bad. What I will also say, the strange thing about his shooting is he's shot 92% from the free throw line last year, and his overall free throw percentage is in the 80s for his career. So again, that's strange to have a smooth stroke there and not be able to. So you wonder how much of it is situationally dependent with his shooting. Was he kind of forcing the issue on different teams that he was in? I haven't tracked his career enough to know here, but in the right circumstance, is this a guy who can make an offensive impact and be more efficient? Maybe. So I'm not ruling it out completely. I just think we're way too quick to say this guy's dog shit just because he's not coming in shooting 40 plus from three. I don't think he's right.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he's dog shit. I'm not going to say he's dog shit, but I will say he's kind of gotten a little bit worse, and the Mavericks did just give him away. And also,
but they're clearing space too.
This is the type of guy that Brad Stevens, I'd be confident in Brad Stevens, the coach, to turn around a little bit. I just don't know what Ime is capable of, so we'll have to see. But Brad Stevens, obviously, he must see something there that he can, imagine that there's an improvement in his all-around game. But this is a guy that can kind of do a little bit of everything.
I see people giving it to me in the chat a little bit because I'm normally the defense guy. I'm just thinking about the need right now with what this team was looking for. They needed, a little bit of spacing, but more so a playmaker. Playmaker at the backup point guard spot. We've all said Smart. He can probably be the lead guy, but you need another guy, I think, off the bench who can also create a little bit and spell those stretches. And this guy to me isn't a backup point guard. He's another wing.
You mentioned the Jimmy, the Brad the coach thing. It is funny because Ime
This is
sitting
the
on
kind
the
of team he would have wanted.
Ime sitting on the at the press conference table, turning to Brad and be like, "We definitely could use more playmaking, spacing, and shooting on this team." And Brad's like, "Got it. Let me go get you a couple of defenders who friggin' launch
Yeah.
who
Good luck,
launch
buddy.
bricks."
Imagine this guy and Smart playing together.
Ball
It's an
now.
ugly thought.
And Dunn.
Yeah,
You
what's
know,
up with Dunn? Guys,
And
have your thoughts on him?
Dunn's a fringy when he's playing, and he didn't play last year. But 2 years ago, he was the last man out on the Defensive Player of the Year, teams. I mean, all defensive teams. So he's a fringy,
Sure.
all league defender. I mean, right there on the cusp. I just don't. It seems like everybody's saying he's just going to get bounced somewhere else. So I don't think he plays a second here. But he can defend like crazy. Like if he sticks. You
Worst
could do
case,
worse
yeah,
than having a role player on the bench for $5 million who can come in and play defense.
Hi guys, Cedric Maxwell here. I want to take a minute to tell you about Marigold Medical. I'm used to keeping my body in great shape, but with arthritis, even the most simple everyday tasks became unbearable. As soon as I called Marigold Medical, I knew I was in good hands. No drugs, no surgery, just an experienced team of caring professionals that wanted to get me back to doing the things I love. Make the call to Marigold Medical and get back to pain-free life.